Carlos Nelson with the Kansas City Business Association. And tonight we have the president, CEO of the Black Heartland Chamber of Kansas City. I've known this woman for, I, I wanted to say 40 years, but at least, yeah, I know, 30
40, little
years.
over
I've
40.
been knowing her for quite some time. And I must say, she's did a Herculean lift or Atlas lift, uh, the world on our shoulders, uh, bringing the Black Heartland Chamber to fruition. Because as I said to her before we got on the air, Miss Crystal Watson had the organization. This was when Cascade first was getting into the digital realm. That was like in '08. And she is a great facilitator, great organizer, but she could not make it work. And she moved on to education. But she had sense enough to hand the reins over to Kim Randolph. And I watched Miss Randolph struggle without the finances and the support to uh, take that seed and start nourishing it and growing it. And as I told her off camera, without any money. And so, without further ado, Miss Randolph, how you doing tonight, Kim?
I am wonderful. So I'm gonna make a couple of corrections.
All right,
First, we are Heartland Black Chamber, so it's
get me
Heartland and Black
together.
Chamber. And then second, it is Kim Randolph Davis. I am Mrs. Davis now.
Yeah,
So
get me together. Hold it. I
kudos to
said
my
that to some other
husband,
people.
James Davis, huh?
I said that to some other people. They said, Carlos, get yourself together. You know she just got married.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
all right.
And happily
All
married.
right. That's what's up.
Um, and then I do want to acknowledge Crystal Watson. A lot of people don't recognize the behind the scene work that Crystal did. So Crystal, where it appeared that she couldn't get things done, Crystal was spread out. We are a region. So Crystal was instrumental in developing and helping them to launch the Wichita Heartland Black Chamber. And during the riots in Ferguson, um, it was the USBC that asked Crystal to become a region so that she could reach over to St. Louis and help them develop a chamber in St. Louis because they did not have one. So a lot of her work came from being spread out to try to solve some issues that were going on across several states, especially after Ferguson and Mike Brown and all that was going on there. So, and by the time, you're trying to hold this down, so you have the Missouri side and the Kansas side, and, we're siloed still, but to her defense, she held this down and worked without no money as well. I mean, she worked, actually, she invested her own personal money. And I know this for a fact because I was a member of the chamber then, um, to hold it together. But yes, she trusted me enough to um, to take the chamber when she was asked to go to the mayor's office and join his cabinet. And my thought, and to be quite transparent and honest, it's a 501c, it's a nonprofit. Shut it down, let it go, move on. And just by the grace of God first, and several partners, one being Versi Lark. And if you haven't heard of Versi, that's somebody you need to meet and interview because this guy is amazing. I will say J.E. Dunn Construction and Keisha Bosby. And at the time, it was Vanessa Sims and Shakia Webb from UMB. And they said, look, we will help you. We will support you. If you'll stay, because I had some ideals. It was a platform. I'm a for-profit girl. So, I'm like, hey, let's make the money.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it was a struggle, a thought, how do I do that? And I looked around and realized that we have a lot of organizations, a lot of ESOs, a lot of support organizations, but we did not have.
Explain what ESOs, you might be talking above my audience when you use these acronyms.
Okay. So an ESO is an entrepreneur support organization. And those are like your Prospect Business Association, your Porterhouse KC, your BBB, which is Business Basic Entrepreneurs. So you got all these organizations that work closely with small business, launching businesses and helping them in back office and things like that. What we didn't have is a chamber of commerce that acted in the seat of a chamber, that acted on the level of a chamber. We have chamber of commerce by name, but we perform as ESOs or as entrepreneur support organizations, which we need those, but we need to figure out how do we all collectively come together, utilize our chamber. And I had to sit back and figure out, what does a chamber actually do? What is a chamber? So I started studying the Greater Kansas City Chamber, the Blue Springs Chamber, the Lenexa Chamber, all these little chambers around. And I realized that our position is to be conveners. We should be out convening all of our organization and saying, here's our issue in the urban core. How do we collectively, because it's so much there, one ESO cannot lead the charge and be the only one. We have to get out of that mindset that I'm the savior, because you don't have the capacity. But collectively, we can have the capacity. And just like Cascade is a great convener. You know, I look at Cascade Media, I follow you, I look at your shows. You convene a lot of different areas in our ecosystem. And these are platforms, it's kind of what the chamber should be doing. It's making sure that when I see your show and you have someone on and they're talking about, these are the issues in education, and we're looking for partners to help us solve this issue, I should be taking that issue, finding the people that are strategically adapt at addressing those issues, bringing them in the room and saying, let's put together a platform and a plan to go and help solve this issue. That's what the Greater Kansas City Chamber does. That's what the organization, and that's where we have been left out of the conversation. I think about it economically. And I think you and I were talking. I can tell you and I were talking. Can I say that?
Yeah,
We're talking before the
that's
show.
what we was doing. You know, we have no edits, and we don't gag anybody or
Okay, good. Because I want to go back to when you talk about, we've known each other for actually over 40 years when I think about it. And I'm not going to tell my age or yours, but I know we both over that 40 mark. When you think about economically, the difference between the urban core yesterday, when we were young adults, you know, really just getting our feet wet and looking up at those in front of us, the Jim Fleets and the Charles Hasleys and, you know, all of those folks out there, collectively, even if they did not really particularly care for each other, when it came time to do something in the community, they came in a room and they solved the problem. Today, we have become so power struck that it's hard to not even do that, because that's a battle. Every one of these organizations start out with good intentions. They see a problem, they're trying to fix it, but society is good at giving us those pats on our back and putting us out in front of a camera and patting us on the head and telling us we're good kids, that we forget that the mission is not about us. The mission is about being collectively making a change in our community. So when I look at what do we do, what do we need to do? What do we need to do is, number one, figure out how do we work together even if we don't like each other. Number two, when we get in a room, when we get in those rooms, listen and pay attention to what's going on in the room. Not get in the room and posture ourselves because we're there, but what are they actually doing? And one of the things that I learned in the rooms was they look at us as a whole, even our leadership, as welfare recipients. We walk in the door like this. We need, we don't have, we never had. Tell me a time when we've ever had. We've always had to struggle and strive and build and work. And we can go back and look at Black Wall Street, and we've seen pits and lulls and ups and downs, but we've always had to work toward getting ahead. We've stopped working. Now we're stuck on, you owe us, you owe us. Well, they're only going to give you a little bit to, just like they do welfare. They take a family that is underprivileged and they give you just enough to survive to the next month. So you can come back and get some more. And we'll give you a little bit more, but we're not going to ever increase it. We're never going to give you enough until we invest. So how do we collectively come together and figure out where is our revenue? Where's our money? Where are we spending our money? And why are we not investing and putting our money on the table? Why aren't we walking in the room saying, okay, here's our $10 million. We want the same match that you're getting when you put your money on the table. They put their money on the table and they send it to the feds, and the feds look at it and say, okay, we'll match this dollar, and 0.123% has to go to your underserved community. Your underserved community is not just the east side, it's the east side, the west side, North Kansas City, South Kansas City. It's education, it's hospital, it's housing, it's workforce, it's small business. Just think about that. All that, it's just crumbs that's being distributed. And the reason we're only getting crumbs is because we haven't invested a dime. So collectively, when we come back to the drawing board, like they did when we were all the different Black Wall Streets, because Oklahoma's not the only one, go back and look at what they did. And it wasn't because they put their money back into the community, which they did, but where did they get their money from the beginning? These were first generation freed slaves. They didn't make their own money. They didn't mint their own money. They had to go out collectively, put together organizations and businesses that they sold goods and services to the people with money. And when they brought their money back into the community, they reinvested it in the community to keep building. They reinvested it in the community to keep building. And so the reinvestment part is where we fail.
Yeah, well, that's my thing. When I looked at all those different cities, and I go back to Doc Holliday and Charles and them, that they invested in organizations. When I started Nelson and Nelson Construction, I didn't know anything about contracting, but James Watts, Sam Dowdy, they were in construction, and they was like, come up here 31st and Truce to minority contractors. And they had technical people there that helped me understand. Then didn't have no damn credit, but minority contractors called down there to Schulte's Lumber and said, we'll back Nelson and Nelson for $1,500 or $2,500. And that enabled me to get the materials to do the job. And now all I had to do is do the labor to get the job. Now I got a paycheck coming home. Mm-hmm. And not only that, I don't have a skill set, but I remember Sam Dowdy and a couple of the guys that were carpenters showing me how to roof. And where the white companies had unions and apprenticeship programs, we didn't have that, but they would teach you on the job. Yeah. And then you would rise, and then you'd bring somebody, you might come on as a laborer for a whole year, but you'd be working with the carpenter. The next thing you know, next year, you doing more than just laboring. You're learning the skill set. and we don't have these programs we have them, but they're not working. We still have minority conferences.
They're not working. They're
We're
not
not
working.
working the way they, from my perspective, that they need to work. But one thing I'm happy like is Christmas in July, when you called me and said, Carlos, we need to work together. And man, you just don't know. That was, like I said, Christmas in July, because uh, Dr. Marge, she has a saying, you got to be the change you want to see. And you mentioned this in your statement. You didn't say it that way, but that's the context. You got to look at how you're looking at things. You can't change nobody, but you can change how you receive what they say. You can change yourself on your approach to certain things, and that might change your outcome.
Yes, absolutely.
So
It's one thing, and I didn't mention this. I am a pastor. I will be leading Terrace Lake United Methodist Church on Red Bridge starting. Well, I just became the pastor July 1st, the lead pastor. But even before then, I think about the grace. We have stopped giving each other grace. When we were growing up, when we were kids, Carlos, I mean, we remember our neighbors. We knew all our neighbors, the people down the street, people around the corner. We knew the people that we lived on Benton. I knew people that lived on Indiana, Cleveland, Kensington. We knew the people, and we gave each other grace, even in our families. And we we respected the teachers. We respected the pastors, and the pastors and teachers were respectable people too at the same time. But the
it
thing
has a
that
lot to do with it too.
tell
Uh,
me about it.
who you respect, not
Yeah,
what they're saying.
yeah. And so um for us to really move the needle in our community, one, we have got to get over this separate mindset, this mindset that um I don't like you for what you don't even know me, but you don't like me.
That's right.
You've never broke bread with me. I've never had any, I don't know you, so I can't say anything bad about you. Uh, I don't care what another person, even in my circle, my sisters will tell you, I'm not gonna get mad at somebody because you got mad at them, because then I'm gonna get mad at them, and then y'all gonna be friends, and then I'm gonna be sitting here looking real stupid. I'm not going to, and then another thing, I'm not going to get a coronary, or every time I see you, I'm mad because I don't like you. I Whatever happened, it happened. It's over. It's done. Let's move on, and let's continue to try to be good for the benefit of everybody around us.
I, I want to ask you this. What is your opinion? We're starting this national campaign, block voting, group economics. What is your opinion on that?
I think it's a fantastic idea. I think that when we start talking about voting, let's talk about actually voting. Let's talk about educating and understanding why we vote, what the benefit of it is of voting. We have finally, I mean, we have gotten to this mindset where they have used the commercials and having people say, I don't vote because it ain't gonna matter. No, you don't vote because you're too lazy to go to the polls. Because whether it mattered or not, it don't matter when you go outside your door and you sit on the porch and you talking about the lady across the street. It don't matter, that you washed your clothes and the other lady next door didn't wash hers. There's things that really don't matter. But what does matter is that when we look at where we live, and you're going to complain every single day that things are not the way you would like them to be, but you do nothing, you lift no finger to even have a voice, whether we win, lose, or draw. You have not participated in the action of getting your voice heard.
A no vote is a vote.
No vote is a vote for the vote that you don't want. It's a vote for a vote that you don't want. So again, I think I like it. I support it, and I'm definitely going to be a part of it. As a chamber, we have to be bipartisan. We can't endorse any one party, but what we can do is we can put the information and the parties in front of the people so they can have an active choice. Now, all I can do is invite candidates. The ones that show up, they have a platform. The ones that don't, that's on you, because I've given you the platform, because I want my community to be fully engaged. Even in preaching, I tell the members of my church, I am going to give you some information. I am going to guide you, but it is up to you. It is up to you to really research and find out what is being said to you. Don't take my word for it, because I'm human. I'm fallible. I'm going to fall. I'm going to make a mistake. That's what happens to people. I may, we tend to want to push everything off on one person, but it is also our responsibility. So I think that before you start talking about one candidate one way or the other, get to know your candidates and know what they stand for. Some people in the party that you think you are voting for are not truly for you. So
well, I think, hold it, I don't think I could have said it any better in explaining the positions that we've taken in the past and where we need to be going in the future. What would, in closing, what would you have to say to our community?
It is time. It is time for us to collectively set aside all our differences. Stop worrying about what one organization is doing, what kind of attention the other organization is getting, and figure out, how do we come together, look at each other's gaps, and fill the holes. When we start plugging the holes in our economic system, in our ecosystem, in our community, we will start seeing movement in every part of the ecosystem. That's, for me, that's the biggest deal. That is what I look for in a legacy. Is if I would leave here tomorrow, I would want people to say she wanted to build an ecosystem and she wanted to be collective and collaborative with others.
That's perfect on ending this conversation. As we always close, first let me jab at Jim Watts.
Oh, please do, please
Yeah,
do.
all right.
And
So,
Sam, and Sam,
Kim,
and
this is
Sam.
Jim. Yeah, this is Jim. When he closed his program, it was a plum pleasing pleasure having you on the show. I'm like, Jim, cut all of that out. All them niceties. You know we snively whiplash and we pin Sweet Nell to the tracks and wait for Dudley Do Right to come.
Right.
Lisa. But as we always close, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.